The last gift of December. The month of December was always a magical time in the little town of Maplewood. The streets were lined with twinkling lights, the scent of cinnamon and pine filled the air, and snowflakes fell gently from the sky, covering everything in a soft, white blanket. It was a time of celebration, family, and giving, but for Lucy, this December felt different. Lucy had always loved Christmas. Growing up, she had fond memories of decorating the tree with her parents, baking cookies, and eagerly waiting for the big day. But this year was special and not in a good way. Her father, who had been very ill, had passed away earlier that year, and her mother was too heartbroken to celebrate. They had decided to forego the usual Christmas festivities, and Lucy found herself walking through the town, watching others enjoy the holiday, but feeling an emptiness in her heart. One cold evening, just a few days before Christmas, Lucy wandered to the town square. There, at the foot of the large evergreen tree, she noticed an old man sitting on a bench. He had a weathered face and his clothes were tattered, but his eyes twinkled with a warmth that seemed out of place in the winter chill. He was holding a small, neatly wrapped package in his hands. "Hello," Lucy said softly, and sure if the man would answer. She had never seen him before. The old man looked up, his face breaking into a smile. A young one," he said with a twinkle in his eye. "What brings you out here on such a cold night?" Lucy hesitated for a moment, then sat down beside him. "I'm just feeling a little lonely, I guess. It's Christmas, and everything feels different this year." The old man nodded knowingly. "I understand," he said gently. "Sometimes the holidays are not as joyful as they once were. But Christmas, my dear, isn't just about the celebrations or the gifts. It's about the love we carry with us and the memories we keep in our hearts." Lucy looked down at the small package in his hands. "What's that?" she asked, curiosity getting the better of her. The man chuckled softly. This little gift. It's for someone special. I've been carrying it for a long time, waiting for the right moment to give it." Lucy smiled faintly. "Who's it for?" "Someone who needs it," he said, his voice warm but mysterious. "Someone who is feeling lonely or lost or unsure of where to turn next." Lucy looked at him, intrigued by his words. She didn't know why, but something about the old man's presence felt comforting. He wasn't offering her anything grand, just a small gift and a little bit of wisdom, but it was exactly what she needed. Without thinking, Lucy asked, "Can I have it? I feel like I need something to remind me that it's still Christmas." The old man studied her for a moment, then handed her the small package with a kind smile. "Of course, child, this is the last gift of December. And it's all yours." Lucy accepted the package, and as she carefully unwrapped it, she found a small snow globe inside. Inside the globe was a tiny scene, a little house covered in snow, a Christmas tree sparkling with lights, and a small family gathered around a warm fire. The scene was simple, but it filled her heart with warmth and a sense of peace. The old man stood up slowly, his eyes bright with a knowing kindness. "Remember, Lucy," he said, "Christmas isn't just about the things we give or receive. It's about finding the light even in the darkest of times. And sometimes the greatest gift is the love and kindness we give to others, even when we feel like we have nothing left to give." With that, the old man turned and walked away, disappearing into the snowy night. Lucy sat quietly for a moment, holding the snow globe in her hands. She realized that the old man had given her more than just a gift. He had reminded her that Christmas wasn't lost, even if things were different this year. She smiled softly, clutching the snow globe to her chest. And as she stood up to head home, she felt a little less lonely, a little less lost, and a little more hopeful for the future. The end.
The Christmas Wish. In a small village nestled between snow-covered hills, there lived a young girl named Emily. She was a kind-hearted child, full of curiosity and wonder. But this Christmas felt different. Emily's father, who worked far away in the city, wouldn't be home for the holiday. Her mother, though loving, was always busy trying to make ends meet after her father's absence. The village, once full of festive cheer, now felt quiet, as if the Christmas spirit had quietly slipped away. Emily had one wish this Christmas: for her family to be together again. She wanted to hear her father's laughter around the dinner table, see the twinkle in his eyes as he told stories, and most of all, feel the warmth of their family reunited. But with her father so far away and no word from him in weeks, Emily wasn't sure if her wish would ever come true. On Christmas Eve, Emily decided to go to the small chapel in the village. It was her favorite place, a peaceful spot where she could think and dream. The chapel was dimly lit, with candles flickering in the corners, casting soft shadows on the walls. Emily knelt before the nativity scene at the altar and closed her eyes tightly, her hands clasped together in prayer. "Dear God," she whispered softly, "I wish for one thing this Christmas: to have my family together again. I miss my father, and I want him to come home." After a moment of silence, Emily opened her eyes and stood up. She gazed at the little nativity scene, simple wooden stable with the figures of Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus surrounded by animals. She felt a sense of peace, as though God had heard her prayer. With a heart full of hope, she left the chapel and headed back to her home. As she walked through the village, the snow began to fall gently. The night was cold, but there was something magical about the way the snowflakes twinkled in the lamplight. Emily smiled to herself, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. She didn't know how, but something inside her told her that her wish might just come true. That evening, as Emily and her mother prepared a simple Christmas dinner, there was a knock at the door. Emily's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? When her mother opened the door, standing there in the cold, wearing a long coat and a big smile, was her father. "Dad!" Emily shouted, rushing into his arms. Her father laughed and lifted her up. "Merry Christmas, Emily. I couldn't miss Christmas with my family." Tears filled Emily's eyes as she hugged him tightly. "I prayed for this," she whispered. "I wished for you to come home." Her father smiled, his eyes sparkling. "And your wish came true." That night, as they sat together around the dinner table, Emily realized that sometimes Christmas wishes don't come true in the way we expect them to. But when they do, they bring a kind of magic that fills our hearts and reminds us that the greatest gift of all is love, family, and the hope that keeps us going, even through the toughest times. The end.
The December Promise. December had always been Emily's favorite month. The crisp air, the sound of Christmas carols floating through the streets, and the sight of twinkling lights adorning every house brought a sense of wonder. But this December felt different. For the first time in many years, Emily's family wasn't celebrating Christmas together. Her father, who worked abroad, couldn't come home for the holiday. Her mother, struggling with long hours at work and the weight of everyday responsibilities, had told Emily they wouldn't be putting up a Christmas tree this year. There was no time, no money, and no energy. The festive spirit seemed to have faded away, replaced by a quiet sadness. One evening, as the days grew shorter and the nights colder, Emily sat by the window, gazing out at the falling snow. She loved how the snowflakes seemed to dance in the air, each one unique and delicate. The sight reminded her of something her grandmother had once told her: "No two snowflakes are alike, just like no 2 days are the same. You never know what tomorrow will bring." Feeling a sudden longing for a bit of magic, Emily decided to do something special. She bundled up in her warmest coat, tied a scarf around her neck, and slipped on her boots. The streets were quiet, and the town was bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. Emily made her way to the old oak tree at the center of the village square, where she had spent countless Christmases in the past. This year, there was no large gathering or grand tree lighting ceremony. It was just her and the peaceful silence of the winter night. Underneath the oak tree, Emily knelt down and gently placed a small handwritten note on the snow. It read, "To whoever finds this, may you find the joy and love that December can bring, no matter what happens." She stood up, dusted the snow off her gloves, and turned to leave. As she walked back home, something magical happened. The wind picked up, swirling the snowflakes around her, and a soft voice called out from behind. "Excuse me, is this yours?" a woman asked. Emily turned around to see a middle-aged woman standing near the tree, holding her note in her hand. The woman's eyes were kind and her smile was warm. "Yes," Emily said, her heart racing. "It's mine. I wanted to send a little bit of Christmas cheer into the world." The woman read the note quietly, then looked back at Emily. "You know," she said, her voice soft and full of understanding, "sometimes we forget the power of small acts of kindness. This note, it's exactly what I needed today." Emily smiled shyly. "I'm glad. I just wanted to remind someone that the magic of Christmas is still out there." The woman looked at Emily, her eyes twinkling. "I think you're right," she said. "And I think this December has just brought us something beautiful. Thank you for reminding me." With that, the woman tucked the note into her coat pocket and Emily watched as she disappeared into the night. When Emily returned home, she felt a warmth inside her heart that she hadn't expected. She knew that even though her family wasn't all together this Christmas, she had shared a small piece of magic with someone else. Sometimes that's all it takes to bring the Christmas spirit back into the world, one small act of kindness at a time. That night, as she sat by the window watching the snow continue to fall, Emily made a promise to herself. She would carry the spirit of December with her, not just on Christmas, but every day. The end.